Welcome back to American Warrior Radio here on AM 1300, the Talk to Me station. We've got a great, exciting interview going on here with a lawyer, David Gordon, and the topic is a upcoming court action that may involve payments back to injured veterans and or military contractors, as long as they're American citizens, in Iraq that were injured by actions from Iran, specific actions involving rocket-propelled devices with explosives on the end. And David is involved in this personally with the suit that is coming. And with that, we want to turn it back over to David and give them an overview again of the two types of munitions, for lack of a better term, that we're talking about that came from Iran and were used to injure our American soldiers and contractors.
Right. The two devices are IRAM, which is an improvised rocket-assisted munition, which is a flying or aerial IED, very specific to the Iranians. And those were introduced in 2005. That's the government let us know that. They found those in 2005, and they've actually become more pervasive with the pullout. We're seeing a lot of it. And EFPs, which is really a lot of different names here, explosively formed projectiles or enhanced explosive penetrators. Basically, it's an IED that's formed a certain way that penetrates and is deadly.
Sort of a shaped charge.
Yes, correct.
And David, you're saying those specific types of devices are what's going to be considered regarding this class action?
It is, and this may change. Right now,
as in being broadened, possibly?
Yes, it most likely will be broadened. These are items that we know for sure are Iranian, delivered by Iranian agents, militia groups, trained by the Iranian government. That we know. And there's multiple...
And that's through your investigative work and those of your associates?
Yes, that's through our investigative work and through our associates. So it most likely does become broadened as we go along. And the way it gets broadened is by people coming to us that were injured, and by coming to me and saying, do I fit in this class? While you may not today, if it broadens, and with what we learn from you, we may learn of other classes of people that we can bring into this.
I want to interject. Glenn, that sounds an awful lot like the way the VA handles situations and disorders associated with Agent Orange exposure.
Exactly.
The more evidence that comes forward, the more willing they are to recognize there's a relationship.
As people who are in the know about the Agent Orange disabilities, and they're presumptive, if you were exposed to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War and you have a certain disability diagnosed today, then it's a slam dunk that you're going to get a disability rating from the VA. The question is how severe is it, and that will guide what the percentage of disability will be. And I was wondering, David, you talked about earlier that it sounds like to me that we're saying basically that Iraq is, for lack of a better term, maybe putting a contract together with Iran to get these munitions and use them, or Iranian agents themselves are using them to harm our troops and or contractors over there. When you say Iraq, are you talking about the Iraqi government, or are you talking about other organizations within Iraq?
No, well, I'm talking about the government.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. I'm treading lightly on some of this, but
sure.
Basically the Iranian Republic, Guard, their army, their specialized force, as I understand it, are the Quds, and the Quds are training other militia groups, Hezbollah, the Promised Day Brigade, the Mahdi, or JAM is the acronym, JAM, and there are a couple of others, and it's through that training now the money is being funneled to these organizations that now have the training and are told what to do, and they're going out and very crude attacks, but they're very effective because they're using
Mass damage.
Yes, mass damage, and they're getting much better. In 2005, these rockets didn't propel things too well, but they've come a long way, and
which is the start date for this particular action, right?
yes.
Any event that may have occurred with one of these devices and injured a American citizen that was over in theater there. Can it be just an American citizen? What if they're, I don't know, a news reporter? Would they be a part of this action?
Absolutely.
Oh, see?
Absolutely.
So the class grows even, yeah,
Right.
I can see what you're saying.
Any person who's an American citizen who was injured as a result of this, there is under the the codes here we're dealing with is 18 USC 2333 Section A. What that does is that allows Americans that are injured by acts that are perpetrated by Iran or its agents to seek civil restitution or your civil damages. And the other statute is also 18 USC, but Section 2331, and basically what that says is aiding and abetting. And that's what's happening here is the banks, by purposely concealing what they're doing, are aiding and abetting the terrorists, and now when the act takes place, all you have is aiding and abetting. That's a violation of law, that's a crime. But then this additional section, 2333 subsection A, that gives the civil penalty, and that allows us to hold them liable in a civil court.
And I think when you get down to talking about anything USC, in this case 18 United States Code is what USC stands for,
Yes.
That's about the time you need to start thinking about looking to get a lawyer, particularly in something brand new like this where the criteria can broaden as time goes along, as we've been talking, and to contact you. How do people go about doing that, David?
Yes, the way to contact me, there's a couple of ways. I'm here local in Melbourne. The phone number is area code 321-725-7575. Or you can go to a website. Now, this it's not new. My involvement now of reaching out is new. In fact, I happened to be speaking to Garen, and I discussed it with him at a real early stage. So I'm coming out here. When I say treading lightly, I'm trying to do exactly that. But our website, I will go ahead and add something specific to this to it. Really not necessary though, but I will do that. If you want to contact us without talking to me, if you want to write it down on paper and see if you fit into the class, my website does have a section where you can type in who you are and how to contact you and what happened, and that does come directly to my desk. That website, the name of my law firm is High Stack Gordon Kirby, and the website is highstacklaw.com, and that is spelled HIGH STACK, and of course law, LAW.com. So highstacklaw.com is a way to type in whatever specifics you have, and we will get back to you, or you can pick up the phone and call at 725-7575.
Now,
I would.
we got, sorry Glenn, we've got
all right.
listeners in Montana, in Minnesota, Maine, and they're listening online on AM 1300 WMEL or 1300WMEL.com. Are they able to call you and or go to your website and give you that information?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And I would guess, even if these people don't seem to be in an eligible group now, that you're going to keep that information because we talked about the possible expansion of the eligibility?
Absolutely. If you think there's any way that you or somebody that you know fits into this class, I would call. And you'll find this surprises a lot of people. I pick up the phone. You hear from lawyers. You're going to hear from me or maybe my law partner, maybe an associate if I'm not there, but you'll hear from us. We don't, if you want to talk to us, pick up the phone. Very accessible.
That's great, because it surprises me to actually be honest with you, so that's wonderful.
Again, a direct opposite with the VA, and I'm not bashing the VA, but just try and reach somebody over there regarding a claim. Good luck. You before the break, you were talking a little bit about the damages, and it's about compensating those that are injured or surviving family members of this affected class. What are we talking about there? What kind of damages are we looking at?
Right. Different than you will find with the VA. There's not a certain percentage assigned to, loss of an eye is worth this, loss of a finger is worth this. Nothing like that. It's Florida tort law, which means that there are certain damages you're entitled to, and that's usually, there's economic damages. If you've been injured and you can no longer, you're trained as a mechanic and you can't do that anymore.
Because your hand got blown off?
Because your hand got blown off. What can you do? What's your loss in income over the course of time? If you're deceased and your family is going to have loss of net accumulations, what would dad have earned? There's or the husband have earned. There's the loss of parental companionship and things of that nature that come into play. In certain cases, their parents, of course, have claims as well for their children.
Because they were maybe dependent on him or her for their support?
Well, also, if you're unmarried and you don't have children, parents now have a claim even if you're an adult. There's a lot of different, very specific to each case of what the damages are. And we argue actual damages. What are the damages? And of course, the damages that are difficult to put a number on are the pain and suffering damages. We do that through experience and what other juries generally do, and usually there's a settlement reached on most cases, but if they're tried, those are the damages. And what we talked about at the break a moment ago is treble damages.
Treble, define that. What is
that? The statute provides for treble damages. That means tripling whatever the actual damage is. In some cases, most people have heard of punitive damages, and that means to punish. Well, you don't usually see punitive damages. And you don't really want them, to be honest with you, because in Florida, anyhow, you don't get them. You are awarded the right to ask for it. If you get them, they only have to pay up to 3 times the amount of the compensatory award, or I think it's $1 million now, no more. So if you get a $50 million punitive award, if it's a jury, they think they've really punished somebody. But what happens is the injured party only sees a small portion, and the rest of it goes to the Florida bar. And to fund pro bono projects and things of that nature. So generally, I actually drop punitive claims right before trial because I don't want a jury to be confused and award a small compensatory award and big punitives thinking they're doing right. So treble
you can understand why the layperson would think one was preferred over the other.
Yes.
I mean, punitive, that sounds good. We're getting some justice.
Right.
But in the real world, it doesn't work that way.
It does not work that way in the real world. I won't go too far into this, but the McDonald's case, people think of personal injury lawyers with that. What they don't understand is that nobody ever really collected anything from that. If there's a big award, there's what's called a remittitor. Judge can take it away. There's also an additor. If the jury just gets it wrong, the manifest weight of the evidence is what it's called. A judge has the right to just add to the damages. Very often is not seen, but in these big awards that you read about, usually they're taken away and there's some settlement at the end.
And in this, can you provide like an example for the average radio listener out there right now? Maybe the neighbor down the street lost a leg and they don't know whether it was one of these devices that was used or not. What might it be worth? What's the potential? Because there's obviously going to be different if there's total loss of life. Because then you've got the family members and their suffering and whatever they're going through, as well as the lost earning capacity of the...
Right. Well, I actually, I'm going to correct you a little bit on that.
Okay.
Usually the death cases, they're much easier to put a value on, and the person is gone. We all know what the damage is there. The difficult part is when you have somebody that's lost a leg. Let's say that if you've lost a leg now, you're going to require future care. You're going to require a tremendous amount of future care. You can have an old wooden leg put on and hobble around, or if you have the funds, you can go and have a prosthetic device made that actually allows you to run and do things. So money matters when it's somebody who has a real disability and requires assistance in the future.
Well, that's great to know, and you're right about those prosthetic devices. And of course, for those who are in this situation and would end up prevailing as part of the court action, and they're veterans, that they would also be in line for getting those prosthetic devices from the VA. I can't imagine it wouldn't be free, because that's a pretty easy claim to prove as a service-connected disability. So,
But it raises a question for me. If I'm a GI out there, if I'm a veteran, and for instance, like, and he won't mind me saying his name, Luis Puertas, he's one of our favored heroes. Over in Iraq, he suffered a catastrophic loss of both his lower limbs, and he's gone on to be a gold medalist in our Paralympics. Just an outstanding man. He was at a previous AVET Project PRNR retreat. Nothing stops this kid. Let's say, and he actually got injured after this time. Now, I don't know whether it was by one of these devices or not, but let's say he did come across information, or somebody told him, or there was a report or something that led him to believe that he may be in this class. If he signs on to this, would it have any adverse effect on his VA compensation? I know the answer, but you tell me.
Yeah, the answer is no, it doesn't. And there, you're getting into, that's a real complicated situation. And for example, if there's a recovery from a third party, there is a right of subrogation that will arise usually. That is, past medicals that have been paid, there may be some payback, but it's done on how much you recovered, what percentage of the full value of your claim did you get. For example, attorney's fees, right away they would reduce the lien by the amount of attorney's fees to paying their pro rata share, because otherwise there'd be no recovery. So, and then any future money usually is structured in some way, like a special needs trust if it's necessary, where it's protected, and that becomes, case specific and complicated. But no, it doesn't terminate benefits that somebody already has.
Okay, because as you may not be aware, but Glenn and I sure are, veterans can get a little skittish when they hear things through the grapevine, particularly if it revolves money coming into their pocket from injuries they suffered during their service.
well, yeah,
So belay those fears right now.
exactly. But let me throw this out, and it may require research, and you don't have an answer right now, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. But for instance, if a surviving spouse were to get money, and I forget the exact amount, but it's like around $100,000 from the Radiation Exposure Control Act, and she's already getting dependents indemnity compensation from the VA, they'll stop the dependents indemnity compensation until they've recovered that amount of money.
Well,
Would that be potentially something that could happen here?
I've not seen it happen. Here's what we normally do. If a case is getting ready to settle, okay, bringing a claim doesn't do anything. It's whether you recover money. Okay, so before you recover money, what the term is taking constructive trust of the money. If I just resolved a case a couple of days ago with a large figure, and we set up a qualified settlement fund that's a place where the money can be paid right away and earn interest, while we're figuring out how it goes to the injured party so that their benefits are protected. Same situation. A man that was paralyzed in a car that rolled over and a roof crush, broke his neck. We've sued the car company and the tire that failed that caused the rollover. Now he receives benefits, and he has not taken constructive trust of the money. If it goes from insurance company to insurance company, for example, an annuity or a special needs trust, you've not taken constructive trust. You don't have the money, even though it's yours. It's considered not yours. For example, you could have it set up where it pays your mortgage and all of your bills, and everything out of pocket is paid. That's not income to you, and you're allowed to receive some income. Those are the types of things that are set up, and they're case specific, and frankly I bring somebody in to do that that's a pro at that, and I stick to what I know best.
Well, that's a pretty darn good explanation. So let's recap a little bit here. If there was an American citizen in the theaters of Iraq from 2005 to 2011, and they were injured or believed they were injured by one of these specific types of devices, the IRAM or the EFP, And if they died, I think it's clear cut. Their family members should contact you. If they're alive and they're suffering and meddling their way through life trying to figure out what to do next, maybe they've got some assistance through the VA, maybe they've never filed with the VA, maybe they were medically retired, Glenn, whatever, they should contact you. And because the plan that you have, you're a facilitator for, is going to capture the money that these banks have basically been, is this the right word, sheltering or
Yeah, you can use any strong language you want on this. It is an intentional, it's a terrorist act is what's happening. The banks are committing...
According to United States Code. This is statute.
Absolutely. When the banks do not comply with the U.S. law, they themselves, the bank, the entity, is committing a terrorist act. And that's what we're doing, is holding them liable to stop the flow of money. The way our system works in awarding money, it doesn't fix you. It can help. Certainly if you need future care, but what it does is that's the stick that keeps the banks from doing it again. So that's how our system works. It does a couple things. It's a stick that keeps the bad behavior from happening, but it also it spreads the burden across the deeper pocket. A lot of people don't like that concept sometimes, but it does spread the burden. And interesting, not just people that are suffering. There are a lot of people that psychological injuries occur, and we all react to injuries differently. You just mentioned a gentleman who lost his legs, and he's doing fantastically. He's still suffering. He doesn't have his legs,
sure.
but you can still be thriving under your current situation, but suffering at the same time. So anybody
that's an excellent point, David.
Anybody that's been injured or a loved one injured, know of somebody, call us, go onto our webpage, communicate with us in some way, and we'll sort it out for you.
If you think you're eligible, or you think your son or daughter or husband would have been eligible but they were killed, contact them anyway and go from there, because the eligibility group could possibly expand over time.
Yes.
And the website is highstacklaw.com.
Yes.
HIGHSTACK law.com. And what's your office phone number? Because you said that you or one of your associates will personally return people's calls.
Absolutely. It's 321-725-7575.
That's David S. Gordon from High Stack Gordon Kirby Law Firm, sharing a few minutes. And folks, I sure hope you had your pen and paper out, because certainly there's got to be somebody in your sphere of influence that may be eligible for this program. And we want to thank you so much, sir, for stopping by today and sharing this information. I think it's going to be, a big success and going to potentially change a whole lot of people's lives for the good. They've suffered, and now it's time to get them compensated for some of their suffering.
Right. Thank you for having me. And that's the hope. We as a personal injury lawyer, if I can help, that's the reward in this. There's a lot of hard work, and when you see somebody in need, that the money that goes to them really truly helps them, that's the reward for the work, and that's what we try to do.
Awesome. Again, David, appreciate your time with us today. High Stack Gordon Kirby. Go to the website highstacklaw.com or call his number 321-725-7575. Glenn, we got to share this always.
Yeah, unfortunately, veteran suicide right now is almost epidemic. If you're a veteran or a family member that knows of a veteran who needs help, there's a Veterans National Crisis Line. Write this down: 1-800-273-8255. And for veterans help specifically, press 1. That's 1-800-273-8255. Press 1.
And folks, that's 21 vets a day. 21 to 23 is way too many. One's too many.
One's too many is
but
right.
As always, Glenn,
don't forget, thank a vet.
done.